name is Jake, and today I'm going to be talking about Rory Gallagher's sophomore album, Deuce. Now, this is not part of my top 102 album countdown. This is actually a request from my buddy Jack from the Autumn Dogs. He's the one who introduced this album to me. He's lucky enough to have a vinyl copy of it, and he was nice enough to listen to it with me. And I realized at some point, or on the first side of the album, that a whole new chapter of my musical life was about to start. Now, for those of you who don't know who Rory Gallagher is, he was a Irish blues guitarist slash singer who first emerged with his fantastic power trio Taste around the late 60s. And he continued as a solo artist after Taste broke up in 1970 due to general poor management and a lot of power struggles within the band. Rory was kind of seen as like the main songwriter, and he was pretty much, even though the other members were his equals in my opinion, Rory was the star of the show. Now, for as long as I've known Rory Gallagher, it always baffled me how he was not as popular as Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck, a lot of the blues guitarists in the late 60s that emerged around the same time he did, because in my opinion, he's just as good. I mean, he even had his own unique sort of playing style that those other guys had. He had every right to be a sort of guitar hero on every guitar player's wall, the same way Clapton and Beck and Jimmy Page are. And he definitely has gained a following for sure. Sadly, it doesn't seem that he's really sort of emerged until after his passing. And it's crazy because he was very, very influential. Johnny Marr / Brian May, Eric Clapton even, all are huge fans of Rory Gallagher's. All cited him as, an influence to some degree. Also, I don't know if this is exactly true or not, but I did read a quote where Jimi Hendrix even cited Rory as his favorite guitarist, but I've also seen that quote attributed to Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top and Terry Kath from Chicago. So, it's the internet, you never really know. I did also read that Bill Hicks was a big fan of this album, and he apparently wore it out and had to buy a new copy. That is awesome. Now, onto the album. Deuce was released November 28th, 1971. This was Rory Gallagher's second solo album, and it was the first of his many attempts to capture the sort of raw feel and energy of a live performance onto a studio recording. Now, I'm going to give this album a lot of praise because it is more than deserving of it. However, I do feel like Rory Gallagher, like many other, guitarists in his caliber, were at their best performing live. And after this video, if you are by any chance looking for a Rory Gallagher performance to start off with, Irish Tour 74 is the one that's generally seen as the classic, and it's absolutely deserving of that. My personal opinion, however, Taste, live at the Isle of Wight, 1970. One of my favorite live recordings of all time. Now, much like his recordings with Taste, this album only features 3 musicians. Jerry McAvoy on bass, Wilgar Campbell on drums, and the man himself on guitar and vocals. Now, I definitely appreciate this sort of raw, minimalistic approach here because I think Rory Gallagher definitely thrived best in that sort of power trio environment. He really jives with the other 2 musicians here. Now, before I get to the songs here, I just want to say I'm probably not going to dive too deep into the topics of the songs because they're pretty much a lot of the same themes that you would find in a normal blues song, And I'm not saying they're bad lyrics by any means. Rory was actually one of the better of the blues lyricists, On the first song, he says, get used to being my used to be. I really liked his way of phrasing that. But they are generally topically a lot of the same. There's two songs on here that really sort of interest me from a lyrical standpoint, and I will definitely touch on those. Track 1, Used to Be. Incredible opener. Rory's guitar tone on this one is massive. Now, something else that I don't see hardly anyone hyping up Rory on, he was a fantastic singer. He could have made his own as a lead vocalist if he wasn't even better on guitar. Jerry McAvoy's playing on this one is great as always, but Wilgar Campbell's drumming is bananas on this. Also a really good solo in the middle of this track, one of many on here. This album is filled to the brim with great solos and just guitar work all around, and the outro solo is even better. Track 2, I'm Not Awake Yet. This is one of my two favorites on the album. The melody is incredible. Now, I love a lot of the blues rock of the, late 60s and 70s. Cream, Yardbirds, all incredible bands. I generally lean towards more the melodic stuff, like the Beatles, obviously. And this definitely is the closest to, definitely not a Beatles song, but it's definitely the most melodic on the album. This is also one of the 3 acoustic songs on this album, and Rory was an incredible acoustic player. A lot of guitarists, in his genre at least, don't always lean towards acoustic. They generally prefer electric, and I'm pretty sure Rory did too, but when he picked up an acoustic, he was just as vibrant as he was on electric guitar. Also, if one wasn't enough, another perfect outro solo. Track 3, Don't Know Where I'm Going. This is another fantastic acoustic track. It's definitely got a much more of a folky vibe going on. He's got a harmonica going. I wouldn't say as far as Dylan is concerned, but he's definitely was leaning towards that direction, I think, for this song. I really like this one. It's short and sweet, to the point. I think it's, it's worth being on the album. And we are back to electric with track 4, Maybe I Will. Jerry McAvoy's bass playing on this one. Yes. And the one thing that really stands out to me about this one is its sense of dynamics. I love dynamics in music, which is probably why I'm a big fan of the Pixies. This is one of those songs that starts off really, raucous and loud, kind of gets quiet for a little bit, and then just gets right back into it. I love that. Track 5, Whole Lot of People. I love Rory's sort of bluesy line delivery on this. He really sounds great here, vocal-wise. And an epic slide guitar performance on here. This is also one of the 2 songs on here lyrically that piqued my interest. It's kind of about, it's a very relevant song. It's about people being very uptight and despondent, like they're on a barbed wire fence, he says. And Rory's kind of saying, hey man, it's all good. The light's gonna shine one day. We're all here. Don't worry. Don't worry. At least definitely in this day and age, it is a very relevant song that I think people should hear. I think it's great. Track 6, In Your Town. This song has probably my favorite riff on the album, and an even more incredible slide guitar performance. He is really grooving on this one. Another thing I noticed is that Rory's distinctive style really comes through on this one. He was definitely a lot more, I think, fast-paced than a lot of the other blues rock bands around this time. I feel like his style was a little more raucous and rough, and it sounds fantastic. Track 7, Should Have Learned My Lesson. This one is definitely more of a traditional slow blues song that, a lot of the other bands were doing around this time. The only thing that saves it from being, oh, it's my least favorite, it's all right, is Rory's passion on this one. He gives probably the most passionate vocal delivery and guitar performance on the album. it's definitely one of those songs you can you can almost see him making the guitar face, you know. It's perfect. Track 8, my other favorite on the album, There's a Light. This is probably my favorite vocal performance from Rory on this album, and the band he has on this has never sounded better. Down to the guitar work, the solo, the bass playing, the drumming, it all just clicks on this one. I feel like this one also has a very distinct feel to it from the rest of the album. I can't quite put my finger on it other than it's Rory. And yet another great outro. Probably my favorite on the album. Track 9, Out of My Mind. This is the third of the acoustic songs on the album, and I really like Rory's sort of country, bluegrass style fingerpicking on this one. He was really good at incorporating different styles into his music, not just blues. And it's sort of like a nice mellow song towards the end of the album. You know, it's there. Oh, that sounds really bad, but I like it. It's good. It's good. Track 10 is what is regarded by many to be one of Rory's masterpieces, Crest of a Wave. And frankly, I completely agree. If you want a song where Rory is just completely in his element, I'd say this is definitely one of, if not the song to go to. This is also my favorite guitar solo on the album. In case you didn't realize earlier, Rory Gallagher is the master of slide. Him and Duane Allman, at least. And of course, this is the other song which interested me from a topical standpoint. It seems to me about, I'm pretty sure this is what it's about, but just, you know, can't be too sure. It definitely seems to me about, you know, people who sort of just sell their souls and happiness for fame. You know, he questions like, hey, are you really happy? Are you really doing what you want to do? And not to get too deep, but I think that's a good, necessary question to ask. I think he was onto something. That's just me. Overall, this is definitely one of the sort of gems of the 70s. I'm shocked that this album isn't bigger. I think it's a masterwork. If you're not a fan of this sort of genre of music, I'm not 100% sure if this album's gonna convince you or not, but if you are, please check out Rory Gallagher. He is up there with the best of them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really don't take it for granted, the people that do. I appreciate it. Thank you. If you have any requests, music or movie related, please drop them below in the comments. I'll be sure to check them out. This is Jake. I'll be back.